Something is happening here and, given the hoopla over a complete unknown, probably even Mr. Jones has an idea what it is. Bob Dylan mania. Thanks to James Mangold's new film, America is currently experiencing a spike of collective fascination with Dylan that probably hasn't peaked quite this high since 1965, when the events of the biopic wrap up. Thankfully, A Complete Unknown has turned out to be a thoughtful treatment as well as a crowd-pleasing one that, against most odds, seems to be equally bowling over deeply Dylan-informed boomers and younger audiences that might have Timothee Chalamet as their first point of entry into this world. The film has accrued a 96% audience approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and when CinemaScore pollsters asked, "How does it feel?" the response was a solid A grade. As a filmmaker, Mangold, Walk the Line, Logan, doesn't try to solve the mysteries of Dylan for moviegoers. But it appears he's given them something they like even better than easy psychological tropes: electricity. Variety talked with Mangold about the challenges in structuring the screenplay, which he took over from initial writer Jay Cox. What happened when he spent 18 hours personally talking with Dylan, his direction of award-contending performances from Chalamet, Edward Norton, and Monica Barbaro, and, surprisingly, how Pete Seeger was as much of a youthful hero to him as Dylan. For some of us who didn't think there could ever be a convincing, realistic portrayal of Dylan on screen, and one that works for people as a movie, there's a feeling that you've pulled off the impossible. Well, I think some people were so convinced it's not possible they're looking at the movie and even now remain convinced it's not possible. Even if it might be possible, they just can't open their eyes. Sometimes people say they want more of Dylan's secrets, but then, also, say they don't want a standard biopic. It's like, pick criticism A or B. But ultimately, it's really gratifying, the reactions that so many people are having. It was puzzling how to make a movie about this particular fellow and that world. And my feeling was to just refuse to acknowledge this kind of enigma stuff. Like, just make the movie, let the events happen, and let the audience absorb what they want from it. There's an interesting level to me where it's like, how much of an enigma can a man be who's released 55 records? How much more do you want? He has given us more personal output than almost any artist in history. There's so much personal poetry that we've been exposed to that it's hard to understand what more he's supposed to give us that will somehow close the circle for someone. There definitely are fans who don't want him overexplained, and we're afraid that, if anything, you are going to spend the movie trying to explain or justify what makes Dylan tick. It's something I've grown allergic to. There's a kind of standard structure in movies we've seen a lot of times, which is heroes carrying a secret. Hero struggles to keep the secret down. Hero fares badly because he's hiding something. Come Therapy with Judd Hirsch. Tim Hutton reveals the secret, or Matt Damon reveals the secret. Citizen Kane reveals the secret, and we now understand. That's a very sensible meeting of Freudian psychology and dramatic structure. But I also think it's a little bit too easy, or it's gotten too easy. And I certainly didn't feel like this particular character, who I got to also spend time with, would lend himself to that kind of a personal revelation. As you mentioned, you did get Dylan to consult on the script. And when people read about that or saw that his manager is an executive producer, there was a bit of an assumption on some people's part. Well, this is going to be a hagiography. If there's anything most people who've seen it now would agree upon, it's that it does not play out that way. Well, when I came on, I definitely felt like Jay Cox, who preceded me as a writer, had his hands tied a little bit. He had written some beautiful stuff that I made sure made it into the film, because it was just exquisite work. But there was a level where the script was skipping the early years. It kind of started with Woody Guthrie, whom Dylan first sought out in 1961, and then went all the way to 1964 almost immediately. I really felt that there was something to seeing the stages of Bob transitioning, but also the relationships, romantic, sexual, and otherwise, with the women in the movie. And that was what that tripwired Bob's management team feeling nervous about what I was doing when I came on board to the material. And COVID hit, and then I got a call from manager Jeff Rosen saying COVID had canceled Bob's tour. Given he didn't have anything to do at the moment, Dylan said, "Let me read this script that's got you guys worried." And then he read it and he liked it, and that changed everything. That then instigated the series of meetings with myself and Bob read the movie you saw. I didn't think he had an issue with how he was being depicted because I think that he saw it as essentially I didn't have an agenda and I wasn't picking a side. From what I sense being with him, that's the most important thing, that there's a neutrality that lets everyone figure out what they think from the circumstances that happened.